London Underground has an ambition to become carbon neutral by the year 2050. This is quite a challenge given the tube's annual electricity consumption is over 1 terawatt hours, the equivalent of 250,000 homes. As of 2007, London Underground has used around 16% of its electricity from renewable sources, which presumably comes with a lower carbon footprint. But what are some of the other systems in use to reduce the giant carbon footprint made by the tube? In 2015, the Mayor of London, Boris Johnson, announced Greenwich Power Station will become a cathedral of power. 6 new natural gas engines are to be installed, a process that began in 2017, and it aims to provide 13% of the power requirement for London Underground. It will also reduce carbon emissions by 60%, which is a big step towards that carbon neutral target. The power station will also be plugged into a heat network connected to all the houses in the local borough. It is worth understanding what exactly a heat network is, and the government has made a handy little document doing just that, which I'll quote from and I'll leave some links in the description. Quote, "Heat networks, also known as district heating, supply heat from a central source to consumers via a network of underground pipes carrying hot water. Heat networks can cover a large area or even an entire city, or be fairly local, supplying a small cluster of buildings. This avoids the need for individual boilers or electric heaters in every building. Heat networks are sometimes called as central heating for the cities. The central heat source is often referred to as the energy center. Heat is brought into each building through a heat exchanger, which for a residential connection is about the same size as a gas boiler. All the same heating controls are available, and to the end user, the central heating and hot water system works in exactly the same way as a domestic gas-fired central heating system, without the need for any combustion to take place inside the building. Heat networks can be various sizes and serve various combinations of building types. Heat networks can be extended over time, and new heat demands and heat sources can be added to the network." End quote. Greenwich Power Station will act as one of the central heat sources for the local community, which will lower carbon emissions and save customers around 10% of the heating bill, and also remove the need for any boilers. As the heat networks are developed, there is an opportunity to tap into other sources of waste heat on the underground. Not only does this supply low-cost heat to the community, it also removes the heat from the train network, reducing the reliance on other cooling systems, and generally making it more comfortable to travel. For example, at Green Park, a borehole water cooler is used to remove heat from the station. I'll quote from the Sibsey Journal here, who was interviewing the head of transport infrastructure at the time, Sharon Duffy. She said, "Water is extracted at a temperature at about 13 degrees C and passed through 2 heat exchangers before being re-injected into the ground. The first heat exchanger is used to remove the heat from the station's cooling water circuit, which serves above platform air handling units, raising the temperature of the borehole from 8 degrees to 21 degrees. There is an opportunity for someone to tap into the second heat exchanger to take this heat out from the borehole water and return it to the aquifer at, say, 6 degrees." End quote. The largest contributor to heat on the underground is from braking, either through the use of normal brake pads or through the use of rheostatic braking. Rheostatic braking is a method of braking where the motor driving the train gets turned into a generator, taking the kinetic energy of the train, converting it into electricity, and slowing the train down in the process. With rheostatic braking, the electricity is dumped into big resistors, which lets out a lot of heat. This is obviously a waste of electricity and makes the tube hotter. So the better solution is to use regenerative braking, where the electricity created feeds back into the network to be used elsewhere. Regenerative braking isn't a new phenomenon. In fact, the Central Line used regen braking for decades, although it was somewhat limited as the power generated could only be used by a nearby train that was accelerating at the same time. But in 2015, a trial was undertaken on the Victoria Line to address this. A large inverter system called a Harmonic and Energy Saving Optimizer, or HESOP, system was installed. This takes DC power generated, runs it through an inverter and transformer, converting it to 22 kilovolt AC power. The results were impressive, and London Underground saved 5% on their energy bill. That is energy that would be wasted as heat and would require cooling. There will always be sufficient demand on the 11 kV network from all the trains and stations requiring power, so the electricity generated will always be used. There are also savings to be made with the way trains are driven. London Underground is nearing the completion of the 4LM program, which is a significant upgrade to the signalling system on the Circle, District, Hammersmith and Metropolitan lines. It is designed to work with the new S7 and S8 stock trains introduced over the last decades to enable automatic train operation, or ATO. This will mean that the train operation can be optimized to run more efficiently and use less power. A technical paper by Watanabe, Kesoki, and Isobe from Japan explores 3 methods to save energy. These are coasting more, maximizing regeneration capture through better braking profiles, and optimizing the train schedule. Finally, Transport for London is investing in photovoltaic or solar panels to convert sunlight directly into electricity. There are a number of sites where the panels are installed, and projects are currently underway to deliver even more. Sites with large surface areas like train depots are ideal for solar, but smaller stations could also be considered. There is a lot of vacant space on the permanent way next to the train tracks, and a potential to install solar panels there. However, there's more to consider, such as interference with signalling equipment, maintenance access, and glare from reflected sunlight. With all these systems, power generated will be used locally first, and any spare will be fed back into the grid. This saves the need for battery systems, which would require regular maintenance and ongoing costs. For over 150 years, the tube has been an integral part of London. When you see the famous roundel, you think of London. With these carbon-reducing initiatives, I'd like to think that London Underground is being further integrated with its city, not just by moving people around, but by providing power and heat. In a sense, going back to the heydays of the steam-powered generators supporting their local railway lines and their local communities. It is this symbiosis between London and the Underground that will help drive down carbon and meet its 2050 targets. I hope you enjoyed this video series. Please be sure to let me know in the comments below and subscribe to this channel if you'd like to see more content like this in the future.